Canes are on a 4-game win streak. The win streak is fascinating as a whole. What the heck can you take away from a game like last night versus Columbus? Scored 7, but it wasn't like that's like the fourth most crazy thing about the game. They scored the most goals they've scored this year. Hit 6 a couple times, never 7. That's maybe not even fourth. That might be 7th. First of all, the slow start thing. Right where you expected. They jump out in the first period down 2-0. Jackson Blake mishandles one. There's some sloppy play from guys on the blue line, and bada boom, bada bang, you're down 2-0. And of course, if you're like me, you're firing off tweets. They have to learn how to start fast. This whole you look up, it's 5-2. Canes take the lead. Boom. I felt like remember those old Athlete's Foot commercials with John Madden?
Tough actin' to actin'.
Boom. Tough actin' to actin'. Boom. 5 goals for the Canes. Jarvis, power play from Aho. How nice does that sound? Those two guys combining for a power play goal. Lovely. Robinson revenge game goal. Assist from Jarvis and Freddie Anderson, the goalie. I'm telling you, this game had it all. It had points for the goalie. It had Jackson Blake atoning for his earlier misplay with a goal from Aho, and then immediately pays it back and sets up Aho for a goal. Martinook gets one. 5-2. And then, if you're like me, you're firing off tweets. All right, they can start slow as long as they promise to absolutely explode whenever they wake up, right? They can sleepwalk through the first period as long as they promise 5-2 in the second. Then back the other way. They give up 2 deflection goals. Columbus is back. It's 5-4. So all of the run they have, the run the Canes have, this, that, you end up in a 1-goal game over halfway through. Seth Jarvis, who we mentioned, contributed to a whole bunch of the action, talked after the game about the back-and-forth second period.
Yeah, it was great. It was kind of weird. I mean, you score 5, you let up 2, all of a sudden you're only up 1. So it's a lot of range of emotions, but I think we did a good job staying level-headed, knowing we played a good game and just kind of a couple lapses led to the goals.
Stayed level. I don't know how you stay level-headed in that one.
There was no level. It was either 11 or 1. There's no levels.
They kept their sea legs. I'll give them that. It was rocking back and forth, but they were old ship hands, right? They grew up on the water. They looked steady because you get up 5-4. Kotkaniemi, who suddenly is on a scoring tear. From Natchez, they get the insurance goal, puts you up 2. Then the empty netter that Dennis was talking about, Jarvis with the empty netter. His first career 4-point game. Seems like that should have happened already, but it hadn't, so 4 points for Jarvis.
It's a stark reminder of how young that guy still is.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. Because you're like, nah, you give him like 5 years, he's going to have a couple of those things. It's like 5 years. Showed up much more recently, especially as a main contributor, much more recently than that. So the good news is, right, and like I said, I don't know how much you can actually take away from this one other than you learned how you are in a panic situation a little bit, right? When things get really crazy, when the waves are coming over the boat and you don't know which way is up, you found a way, so you can take some confidence in that. There was this is similarly how I thought. So as Dennis knows, and as I say often, I am a NFL draft. I fancy myself like a amateur on my own time, like Todd McShay or Mel Kiper. Like I'm like, oh well, in my rankings. So I'm watching film, and there's I think it was a wide receiver that I'm watching. I forget actually who it is, and you'll see why in a second. And they ran a flea flicker pass. And this player that I was watching was supposed to be the guy that made the throw. It's a low snap. It's a bad pitch. The ball is on the ground. He tries to pick it up. He kicks it. He finally scoops it up, and he pivots, reverses field, and picks up like 12 yards. Doesn't make a bad thing worse by trying to throw the pass. Just picks it up, gains 12 yards. And I went, he is really good in a panic situation. Wrote that down in my notes. Then I went back and crossed it out. Do you know why? Because ain't nobody going to build a career off of, how well does he react on a double reverse flea flicker pass after you kick it once? It's like it doesn't You need to be, as a wide receiver, needs to be able to get open on a route and catch the ball. It's like, oh, you know what? We were going to cut him and put him on the practice squad, but he's so good when double reverse passes go poorly, right? So similar for the Canes. It's like, hey, you did such a good job after you scored the 5 straight, and then they didn't roll over and die and scored 2, and then you had to come back and score 2 more. It's like, well, that's great, but I don't know how many times you're going to have to work on your, hey, we scored 5 and then they responded skills. So how much can you take away? I think it has to be trends, right? Even in the chaos of what happened last night against Columbus, there were still things that you saw. The slow start thing is real. They are on a 4-game win streak, okay, which is great, right? I can't tell you the breath of fresh air it feels like after so long. Every time you believed in a little momentum, they were faltering. They are on a 4-game win streak. Do you know what the score is in the first periods of that 4-game win streak?
Offers.
They're being outscored 4-0.
Goals for Canes, offers.
Yeah, 4-0. They have not scored a goal in the first period, which, it's 4-game win streak. We're not going to complain about it, right? So you're winning. So winning is winning, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that doesn't seem sustainable. You can't be getting outscored 4-0 and expecting to walk away undefeated, which is what has happened in the last 4. It's the gift and the curse, right? Part of me is like, hey, look at that. They don't get discouraged when they don't play well early. They stick to it. They've got some good old determination.
It's a blessing and a curse.
And then part of me is like, yeah, it's my favorite thing when people make a mistake and then say my bad. Right, my coach used to yell at us, I don't want your bad. I want you not to be bad. Like, I don't want you to be good at overcoming, or I want you to be good at overcoming bad starts, but I don't want you to have to do it every single game, which is kind of what you're doing here.
Don't make it a norm.
Don't make it a norm. And also, everybody was scoring. Like all the forwards, I guess I should say, were scoring last night. 7 goals, 6 different goal scorers. There still are those moments. It doesn't seem like it last night when the forwards don't have the pop, and I think that's why, even last night, right, because I'm firing off overreaction tweets to every run in every direction. There's still, if you're on Canes Twitter, you're seeing the trade conversations. And Frank Saravalli, Daily Faceoff, thinks the Hurricanes are being pretty active in that trade market.
I think the team right at the top of the list, Andy, is the Carolina Hurricanes. They have been more active, according to sources around the league, on the Miller front than just about any other team. For one, they've received permission to speak to Miller's representative directly, which in turn would lead us to believe that he's provided assurance to them that if this deal were to be consummated, that he would not stand in the way with the full no trade clause that he has. And beyond that, I believe they presented multiple iterations of different types of deals to the Vancouver Canucks in an effort to try and get something done. Does that mean it will happen? Not necessarily, because here's the kicker to this, Andy. League sources indicate that the Carolina Hurricanes have been one of the most active teams across the league over the last handful of days. They're working to try and bring in, I believe, a skilled forward, and it might not necessarily just be Miller. So keep an eye on the Hurricanes over the next few days as one of the most active teams.
One of the most active.
Go on. Tell me more.
We're all learning. Eric Tulsky as a GM is still relatively new. I think many of us, I'm part of this, many of us believed because he was kind of the lieutenant to Don Waddell that there would be a certain amount of similarity within how they operate, and obviously the owner Tom Dundon's still involved. I guess we don't know that for sure. Maybe we got wheeling dealing Eric Tulsky up there who's ready to make moves, ready to make waves. I still wouldn't expect it, but it's nice to know he's exploring, right? It's nice to know the calls they're being included. JT Miller or otherwise. Now we really get to let our imagination run wild because they made it sound like it wasn't just calls to Vancouver.
Yeah, Frank Saravalli also did say about when it comes to JT Miller, it's like things have gotten quiet a little bit, which might mean things are actually inching closer. Mm-hmm. Because there was the possible trade with the Rangers, and then that actually fell through. Yep. So it's like, well, okay, actually things got a little quiet. Things might be getting closer.
A lot of times quiet happens when everybody knows, don't mess this up. We're pretty much across the finish line. Don't rock the boat.
Don't say anything.
Keep your sea legs. Bringing it all back around.